In this video, let's understand the concept of passing by value and passing by reference. Although these concepts are universal across all programming languages which support object-oriented concepts, we are going to take the example of Java to understand these concepts. And I'm going to take some physical objects for the sake of analogy so that it's easier to visualize and understand these concepts better. So let's start with this simple statement int a. So in this statement, we declared a variable a which is of data type int. Well, this is just a declaration. There is no value assigned at this point, but in Java, all primitives have a value 0 assigned to them. So by default, a has a value of 0 even though you don't assign 0 explicitly. The moment you declare, it gets a value of 0. So to represent this in the physical world, let's take a small blackboard, call that as a, and update the value that it contains, which is 0 to begin with. In this statement, we assign a value 10 to a. In the previous statement, we declared it. In this statement, we are assigning a value. It's as good as taking a chalk and replacing that 0 with 10. So that is how you can visualize what happens when this statement is executed to this blackboard. And here is another example where we have the declaration and assignment happening in the same statement, which is represented in a very similar way. So you have a blackboard, which we name it as A, and that blackboard has a value 10 written on it. And here is a variable b declared, and here it's just a declaration, there's no assignment. But since this is a primitive, it gets a value of 0 by default. So b represents another blackboard, and this blackboard is called b, and then it is having a value of 0. Next, if you assign value a to b, now remember a is having a value of 10. So if you assign a to b, it's as good as copying over whatever is there in blackboard A to blackboard B. So whatever value was written here is now copied over to B with a chalk. Next comes the method call. So let's assume that these two statements are inside some method, and that method is in turn calling this myMethod. And this myMethod is taking one variable b. This is the parameter that it is taking. And when that method is called here, a is passed on as an argument for this parameter b. So when you pass a as the argument to parameter b, it's very similar to the statement that you see here. So a is assigned b. It's the same thing happening here. A is assigned to b. So because this is a primitive, it's as good as taking the value that a contains and copying it over to b, and that's exactly what happens here. So this is passing by value. When you copy over whatever is the value that one variable contains into another variable, that is the meaning of saying passing by value. Next comes passing by reference. So to understand this, let us now take the physical chair to represent those variables which are of object types. So here this is also a declaration. So in this we are having a variable called balloon1, which is of object type. Since this balloon1 is of object type, instead of using a small blackboard, we are using a chair. Again, remember, every variable is just a placeholder. So the primitive placeholder, we used a blackboard, and for the object placeholder, we are using a chair instead. And that chair is having a name balloon1. The chair is the one which is having the name balloon1. In this statement, we are instantiating an object. So remember, whenever you use the new keyword, you're instantiating an object. To represent this instantiation, let us represent that with a balloon. Whenever you use the new keyword on a class, then what you're going to get is a full-blown helium balloon. If you let it go, this balloon will go into the air. You have to hold it with a tether. Only then you can keep it. So that is the kind of balloon you're going to get every time you're going to use the new keyword on a class. So in this statement, what we are doing is we created a balloon. So this is the one which creates a balloon. And then that balloon is assigned to this chair. Remember, this is a chair. So when you do this assignment, let us represent that with a tether joining the balloon to this chair. So this balloon is now connected to this chair. That chair is named balloon 1 and it is connected to this chair using this tether, and the reason it is connected is because of this assignment. So we instantiated a new object and we assigned that to balloon 1, and that is represented by a balloon being blown to its full size and then tied to this chair with a tether. Next, here is another statement which is creating one more object, which is again represented by another balloon. And here is another variable that is declared. So this variable is going to be represented by this chair now. And that chair is going to be called balloon 2 because this variable is called balloon 2. And then this balloon is now tied to this chair. And in this example, what you're seeing is after the object was instantiated and assigned to balloon 1, a null value is assigned to balloon 1. So when that happens, the object that was previously assigned to balloon 1 is released into thin air. As you know that this is a helium balloon. Once it is untied from this chair, this balloon goes up into the sky and disappears, and eventually it gets destroyed. So that is literally what happens to the object inside the JVM as well. So the object that was created is now going to be released so that the garbage collector can collect it and then destroy it. So that's literally what happens to this object once you assign null value to a variable which was previously holding a reference to the instance of the object. Next, let's take this example. So in this example, we instantiated a new object with this new keyword, and that object is now tethered to this balloon 1 variable, and that is shown here. So this is the balloon 1 chair, and then we have the balloon that got created with this new keyword, and that balloon is now tied to this chair because of this assignment. And now in the next statement, you have balloon 2 declared, and that balloon 2 is assigned balloon 1. So whatever is there in balloon 1 is assigned to balloon 2. So that could be represented as, remember, balloon 2 is one more placeholder, so that represents another chair. And so this chair is now connected to the same balloon with a separate tether. That is how you could represent this assignment. Because remember that every time you use the new keyword, that is when you get a new balloon. We didn't use a new keyword here. We just assigned this balloon 1 to balloon 2. So since there is no second new keyword, you're not going to get a second balloon. It's the same balloon which is tied to the second chair. Second chair also is tied to the same balloon. So this balloon is now tied to 2 chairs. In this example, what we are doing is you're now assigning null value to balloon 1. Remember, whenever you assign null value to balloon 1, that object which was assigned to balloon 1 is released. So that can be represented by this chopping off of this tether using a pair of scissors. So you're releasing that object from this balloon 1. However, there is one more tether that is holding this balloon though. Even though that balloon got released from this chair, it is still tied to this chair. So that's what happens because of this assignment. Even though you made null, this balloon 1 turns out to be null. So this object got released from balloon 1, but the object is still tethered over with the other chair. And so it's truly not up in the sky. So in the Java world, this is not yet released for garbage collection because it is still held by one more variable. And now comes to the method call. So when you have a myMethod declared like this, which takes one parameter which is of object type. And then here we are calling this myMethod by passing this balloon as the argument for this parameter b. So the balloon 1 lands up being the argument that is passed over to this parameter b. So these two can be represented similarly by these two chairs. This balloon 1 that you see here is this chair, and this b that you see here is this chair. So when this method is called by passing in balloon 1, it's equivalent to what we did here. You see this balloon 1 got assigned to balloon 2. Equivalently here, balloon 1 is assigned to b. So when this statement is executed, you can represent that with this tether and this balloon. So this is the balloon that got created that is tied to this chair. And then when you call this method, you can represent this b, and now this b is also tied to the same balloon. So remember again, when you are not getting a different balloon by this method call, so the same balloon which is tied to both these chairs. So that is pretty much what happens in this method call. So this is the analogy for passing by reference representation. So whenever you're passing an object to a method call, what you're doing is tethering that same object to that new variable. So when you manipulate inside, when you're manipulating this b, when you make changes to this b, you're literally making changes to the original object because that's the only object you have. We really didn't create a new object and pass it along to this method. It's the same old object which is passed on with its reference. You can consider this tether as the reference. So it's the reference that is copied over, not the object itself. We're having multiple tethers as in how you pass that object to multiple variables. What you're getting extra here is the multiple tethers or the multiple references to this object, but the object itself is just one. So remember again, whenever you use the new keyword, that's when you get a balloon. If you don't use the new keyword, you're not going to have a new balloon. So you may be copying over from one variable to another variable like this, but this will not get you a new object. Instead, gets you a new tether. So reference is what is being copied over here, not the object itself. The object, it's the same object, but it's the reference that is copied over. I hope this analogy, by taking some physical objects, helps in understanding the concept of passing by reference.